Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode. This week in this episode, I'm going to talk about the energies behind using affirmations and mantras so that you can become more conscious of how you're using them and why. And after you've been made aware of this information, it will change the way you look at and use affirmations. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this in this week's episode is because we have just had some intense astrology with the eclipse season that's just passed and also with Saturn recently retrograding back into Aquarius, as well as Venus meeting up with the Uranus in Taurus square. Now, this Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus energy isn't anything new for us. We've been dealing with the revolutionary Saturn and Uranus squares for the last 2 years, since 2020. That has been bringing about some much needed shakeups and changes for all of us individually as well as collectively. Now, these energies brought about many pivotal changes and awakenings for many of us personally, as well as for humanity and the entire world. It's highlighted the old and outdated systems and structures and belief systems that we've had and that's in our world that are basically no longer viable for the future that we are creating and are heading into. You know, you can think of our monetary system, our resources like food and oil production and distribution, our healthcare systems. These are just some examples of the systems that need to be reinvented to work in a better and more sustainable as well as equitable way for humanity. These old systems that we're currently in and that we're moving out of that have had a breakdown over the last 2 years, well, they were created in the old paradigm. And we have really needed to see and acknowledge what's no longer working. So that's why so much has been coming up for us in the last 2 years, personally and collectively, that have triggered us, that have shown us that it's not working, that we don't want this anymore, that we want something better. So you can think of whatever it is that's been coming up for you personally, lately, over the last couple of years, or even just recently, as these circumstances and these energies are just asking you to become more aware, more conscious of the fears and limiting beliefs that have been triggered so that you can develop a new perspective and new belief systems and knowings about yourself that are rooted in a higher level of self-worth. So for many people, you know, they've been tossed and turned in these energies, just revealing some major crossroads or some bigger or major choices and changes that will help propel you or people in a new direction. And it's been particularly potent for those with fixed signs in their charts, so Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. And this Saturn retrograde in Aquarius has really put a lot of things into focus for many and have revealed what we have to do personally and collectively to move forward in our lives, what we may have to stop doing or what we may have to let go of. So yeah, some pretty serious decisions that, you know, are more aligned with our values, our true authenticity, our higher sense of self-worth and power. So now with this Saturn retrograding again until October, it's basically the final check-in to see how we're doing in our progress, how we are doing with these changes and choices. Now, one common theme that is affecting many people is money and worth or wealth. And now it's not my intention to fearmonger or scare people, but we are all well aware by now of just some of the economic changes that are happening around the world. Inflation is still very high. We are all paying more for food, gas, goods, and services. And I know that this isn't a finance and economics channel, but money and the energies behind money is connected to our levels of self-worth. And after the economic studies that I've been doing for the last few years, it just doesn't sit right with me to not continue to forewarn you, listeners, about what we are going to continue to see unfold in the next year or so. Basically, the inflation that we're seeing, the price hikes in food and goods will continue to climb throughout the rest of the year. Oil and gas will escalate, further pushing up the prices of all things that are manufactured. As well, yeah, these companies use oil and gas to produce the goods. Interest rates are going up around the world now, so you personally may be paying more for your rent or your mortgage or just more taxes. We also have had scarcity starting to show up more in our everyday lives, from lack of supplies, lack of food or variety of food, lack of housing options, lack of staff, lack of childcare, or lack of wage increases to meet the rising cost of living. So all of these economic changes and just changes in general that have been triggering so many people around the world will continue to trigger more people, and it will continue, I'm sorry to say this, to get worse. This is not a prediction. This is not me just flippantly trying to fearmonger. It's just data and maths. So you may have found that you personally may have been triggered in your abundance mindset, or your beliefs around feeling supported or feeling safe or secure. Perhaps many people around you might be triggered around money or worth, or fears of not being secure or not feeling supported or stable. And just note that these are the archetypical energies of Taurus. So this is the Uranus in Taurus energies here that are triggering many. So one common tool that is more widely used as a support aid in creating big changes in our lives or in supporting us during events that trigger any limiting beliefs is the use of affirmations and mantras. Now, I, for one, am all for mantras and affirmations. I have made it a habit to naturally affirm certain belief systems to myself every day, and I almost do it unconsciously now. It's just a normal habit for me to just affirm to myself what I believe and know deep inside. But I have noticed that, when people aren't used to using affirmations or mantras, then they can get confused when it comes to using them. And they can misuse them at times. So let's unpack the intentions and energies behind using affirmations and mantras. We want to know how they work and the energies behind them and how to use them properly so that we can use them as a tool or an aid to help assist us in our conscious evolution. Now, when we're being asked to level up or kind of step up things in our lives and to make big changes that align more with our higher sense of self-worth or values and authenticity, it can be harder to take action on doing this without also leveling up our belief systems, without leveling up our sense of self-worth or value, and just leveling up in our thoughts that we have about ourselves and our lives and what we can create. So you can see how these energies and events and circumstances that are coming up for you, they're not bad, right? That's just the meaning that we're assigning to them. We're like, oh, we don't like this. This is bad. All these bad things are happening to me. No, the universe is just trying to show you what's no longer working. And in order for you to create something better for yourself and to level up and create something different or just something that's more in alignment with what it is that you want, you need to change your lower levels of self-worth or your limiting beliefs. And one tool that can help you to level up your belief systems and just how you view yourself in your life and how you talk to yourself or how you believe in yourself is to use uplifting or positive affirmations and mantras. If you're using them in the correct way, that is. So first off, let me just state, when we use positive affirmations or mantras, we are using them as extra tools and not solutions to help us in embodying our beliefs and knowings about ourselves. and therefore supporting us in creating new perspectives about ourselves and our lives. So that then, from there, we can take actions from these perspectives and beliefs. So affirmations and mantras are tools that can help support us in reminding us of what we are. Now, I really want to repeat that, as that sentence there really is the hidden key. They are tools that help to support us by reminding us of what we are. Not what we hope to be, not what we want to become, but what we are. So repeating daily affirmations or mantras in our meditations, repeating them to yourself in the shower, reading them on a post-it note on your bathroom mirror whilst brushing your teeth, repeating them in the mornings when you wake up or in the evening, repeating them as you run through the forest or when you go for walks or when you stop at a red light. These are just some examples of the easy and effective ways to kind of pump yourself up or just remind you and motivate you to adopt a particular perspective before taking an action or before setting out on your day. And remember, it's not just repeating the words, it's also truly feeling into the words, the energy behind the words, the meanings of the positive affirmations or mantras. And if used often and in the correct way, the science that's behind using affirmation tells us that they can actually eventually help to create new neural pathways in your brain, where the constant and effortless and not forced repetition and feelings makes it easier to rewire your thoughts and habits of thinking into more positive and empowering stories or beliefs about yourself. However, what I do want to discuss are some deeper energies and awarenesses for you to know if you are relying on affirmations or mantras to help you to create a paradigm shift in your life, or if you're using them to manifest. As for many, they may not be aware of how using affirmations can be A, hindering your manifestations from coming in, and B, you may be using them as a form of spiritual bypassing. So let's unpack those two things. So if you're currently using affirmations or mantras in your life, then let's first talk about why you are using them in the first place. Typically, the main motivation behind using affirmations or mantras is to help you to form new belief systems about you, yourself, your life, or the universe. And perhaps events in your life are triggering thoughts or beliefs around lack or scarcity. So then you may gravitate towards using affirmations like, I am abundant, or the classic, large sums of money come quickly and easily to me. Right? You tend to go to the opposite because you've been triggered in the lack, you've been triggered in the scarcity. So you think, oh, I don't want that. I want the opposite of that. So we'll repeat these kind of affirmations to ourselves. And so let's just say you then spend countless hours repeating them and trying to tell yourself the opposite to what you actually truly feel and believe about yourself and your life deep down, deep within your subconscious. If you're doing this, then basically it won't work. Repeating words and sentences to yourself constantly won't work if you're not actively choosing to do the real work of acknowledging your limiting beliefs and fears around lack and scarcity. Because basically, I talk about this all the time. It's really so simple, is we have to acknowledge, we have to become conscious of our lack mindsets every time we're triggered. We have to become conscious of any actions or reactions that are stemming from lack. You have to become conscious of any obsessive, worrying thoughts that you might have around lack. I don't have enough money, or look at all this debt that I'm in. How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay for the rising cost in fuel? How am I going to pay for the rising cost in food? All of these thoughts are natural to have since we are all being triggered in this way. However, If you're constantly having these worrying, obsessive thoughts about lack, and then you're taking actions from this place, then repeating a bunch of positive affirmations that are the opposite of the lack and the scarcity isn't really going to do a whole lot for you. You can't expect that to fix everything, as all of the other fears, thoughts, feelings, and actions that are connected to the lack of a scarcity are much more dominant and stronger in their frequencies than the abundance affirmations that you repeat every now and again. Basically, you can't trick yourself or the universe into overriding the deep-rooted fears and limiting beliefs that are in your subconscious or unconscious mind, especially if these are fears that you constantly worry about and constantly react to and constantly feed your focus into, or if it's something that you've been doing for many, many, many years. This will take some time for you to actually work on and to shift out of in a more sustainable way. Because here's the thing, the universe and your subconscious only reacts, only says yes to, and only manifests from the truth, the real and authentic truth that you can't hide from or run away from, that you can't just pretend isn't there. So this is the reason why affirmations don't tend to work or be a sustainable way to manifest for people. I mean, yeah, you can use them periodically, and they may help you to temporarily shift your energy, raise your frequency, or help you in manifesting certain things, especially if they're smaller manifestations. But it won't last, or it won't be sustainable if you don't also do the work. You guys know by now that in order to permanently shift your underlying baseline frequencies and actually consciously and spiritually evolve, then you must become more conscious of your thoughts, feelings, actions, your triggers, your fears, and your limiting beliefs. It is this which actually helps you to shift your beliefs and knowings about yourself, whereby then you won't need to rely on using affirmations constantly as you consciously evolve to knowing and believing in more abundant and higher senses of self-worth, beliefs, and knowings about yourself. Right? Think about that. If you're constantly relying on and trying to force and use repeating affirmations to change your reality or to change your energetic frequencies, then that is you telling your subconscious is, I need to change and not be this. I need to shift out of these energies. I need to create this by using these affirmations. That's telling your subconscious that you are not that of what you wish to be because you're forcing it, you're repeating it. But when you do the work, your energies and your belief systems and your knowings about yourself have shifted and have changed. So then you don't need to repeat constant affirmations or constant mantras all of the time to try to bring in that of what it is that you're trying to affirm. Now, I want to talk about those two words here, believing and knowing. Now, there's actually a huge difference between believing and knowing. When we're trying to rewire beliefs, sometimes, not all times, but sometimes there's almost like a tinge of hope that's associated with believing, especially when you're first starting out in trying to shift and create new belief systems. You know, things like, I believe that one day I will be rich, or I believe that I will someday hopefully have my own home that has 6 bedrooms and a pool. It's almost like we are hoping to convince ourselves that it is possible in a way. But that's not the same as truly embodying and knowing that I will have a 6-bedroom house with a pool. It's kind of like, let me put it this way. It's kind of like if you had a child, you don't believe that it's your child. You know that it's your child. See the subtle but very big difference there? I mean, do you think Elon Musk has affirmation plaques everywhere reminding him to repeat to himself that he is a genius or that he's really intelligent? Or I like to use this example all the time. Let's just say you know someone who's created a really successful career for themselves or a highly successful company or business. Let's just say you go into this person's house or mansion. You won't see affirmation magnets on their fridge. You won't see embroidered affirmation reminders hanging everywhere on their walls. Nor will you see I am abundance plaques in the gardens, reminding them to repeat these affirmations to themselves each day. No. You see, typically, they don't need affirmation reminders everywhere because they know they are abundant. They know that they are worthy. They know what they can create. They know their worth. They know their intelligence. And because they know it, they don't need these tools to remind them or to convince themselves of anything because they are it. They embody it and they know it. So you see, the power, the true power, is actually in the knowing. Knowing that things are possible for you. Knowing that you will have. And knowing that you are. The power is not in the attempts and subtle hope that goes into repeating sentences or trying to form new beliefs about yourself, which you don't really truly believe deep down subconsciously. And to discern between the two words of believing and knowing and which one you're actually embodying at the moment, well, it will take a very sobering degree of honesty with yourself. You know, our subconscious mind is smart. It knows the truth, and the universe also only responds to the truth. So the most empowering thing that you can do is to be willing enough to be honest with yourself. And here's the thing, if the affirmation or the mantra is too far from the truth of where you're at right now, of what you truly believe about yourself deep down and what you're constantly feeding your focus and attention into, well, then it's much harder to rewire the new beliefs and the new knowings in order for your subconscious to then actually adopt the new belief systems or the new knowings about yourself. It's almost like it's too far of a leap for your subconscious or for you to then sustainably anchor in and adopt it. You see, affirmations are supposed to affirm something that we already believe and know about ourselves. So if you don't truly already believe and know something, and then you're trying to convince and override and tell yourself that you're something that you're not, and if it's too far or too much on the opposite end of the scale from what you actually believe deep down, then your subconscious won't accept it. The universe won't accept it. If you don't truly embody, know, and feel into your affirmations, then it's just futile attempts in convincing, really. And honestly, it doesn't do shit to shift your reality in a sustainable way. And in fact, it can also be counterintuitive. The universe and your subconscious will just say, hey, why is she repeating these sentences over and over? I don't know. Let's see what's at the root of that. That's motivating her to obsessively and desperately try to convince herself and repeat these words. Oh, have a look at that. It's because she doesn't truly believe and know this about herself. She, in fact, actually feels the opposite. She actually feels like she's coming from lack, that she's not enough. That's what's motivating her to repeat and force these mantras. All right, then let's just keep giving her that opposite then. Let's just keep giving her the lack. So you see that it's this lack motivation, right? That's actually rooted in fear. That's what's fueling any obsessive, desperate, constant forcing attempts in repeating affirmations to yourself. So this is why affirmations are just a tool that helps to complement your consciousness journey. It mustn't be relied on or used as a quick fix tool or as a way to spiritually bypass. The truth is, the real power is in you embodying the knowing of your worth, a higher sense of self-worth, the knowing of a higher sense of abundance, the knowing of a higher sense of enoughness. And the only way to embody this knowing is to acknowledge and feel our limiting beliefs and fears. Address it, go there, acknowledge it, be in the feelings, feel it out fully. Recognize the limiting belief. Look at where that limiting belief was first ever formed in childhood. Because it's only from there, when you get into the habit of doing that, after having that paradigm shift, after redirecting our focus, that we can introduce affirmations that are more convincing or more in alignment and closer to our truth. You see, the only way for us and our subconscious to accept a new belief is there has to be some truth to what we're repeating and telling ourselves, so that you connect to it more, so that you believe it just a little bit more. Then your mind, your subconscious mind, is less likely to reject it. So we want to start embodying a new belief or a new affirmation by asking the question, what if? What if I was wrong about what I'm saying to myself or what I'm saying about myself? What if I'm actually wrong in saying that I'm not good enough or that I'm not smart enough? Simply just introducing the question of, what if I wasn't as ugly or fat as I'm telling myself? What if I wasn't as poor as I'm telling myself? What if I wasn't actually in as much lack as I've been telling myself? And then from there, after introducing the question of what if, you could then take it one step further and think of an example of one feature about yourself that was beautiful. Perhaps your hair or your eyes or your teeth, or maybe you have great boobs. That's all you need to do. Start small, small little steps. Let's use this example. This is an example stemmed from not being enough, as that's a common one for many people. So let's just say you're at a dinner party and there was a conversation going on about current politics in which you just don't really know that much about. And let's just say that you got triggered in some way because you didn't really understand the conversation, or you just don't follow what's been going on in the current political environment. And let's just say you got triggered in it by some ways. Maybe someone made a comment, or you kind of felt a bit bad about yourself in some way because you didn't really understand what was going on. And then you start having thoughts, or you might have a reaction that stems from that belief that you're not smart enough. So first you want to catch yourself if you're having these thoughts. So after acknowledging that, hey, I feel pretty bad about myself because I'm not really into this conversation and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they're talking about and I don't feel good about myself. After you acknowledge that, you can then say, well, what is that connected to? That's connected to the limiting belief that I hold that I'm not good enough or I'm not smart enough. And then you want to introduce the question, what if? What if it wasn't that I'm not smart, but instead that I just don't understand this particular topic because I don't have all of the information? So then you can introduce the next step by thinking of other topics that you do have more information on, that you do know a lot more about, that you are passionate about. And then you could say to yourself, well, I actually do know a lot of other things. So it's not that I'm not smart enough. I just don't have all of the information on this particular topic about politics. I don't have all the information that I need to form an opinion or to contribute to this conversation. But I do understand other topics really well. I do know a lot about plants. I do know a lot about Renaissance period artwork. I do know a lot about the human psyche, or, I don't know, insert whatever things you do know a lot about. And that's all you need to do. That's it. You don't have to feel like you need to prove to yourself or anyone else that you're smart or that, hey, I know things. You don't have to forcibly change the topic to talk about all the things that you do know about. You can simply just do this little exercise in your own head while the conversation's going on. You're then showing your mind, your subconscious mind, hey, I'm not going to feed my focus into this lack belief. I'm going to feed my focus into this abundance belief, into this example of all of the things that I know a lot about. And that's proving to your mind, your subconscious mind and yourself that you are good enough, that you are smart enough. And that right there is so much more powerful, such a powerful, easy tool to use in raising your frequency, in permanently changing your energetic baseline frequency, than flash repeating a bunch of words and sentences and affirmations that you don't really believe or know about yourself deep down. So after you do that little exercise of catching that feeling of inadequacy that you might feel, and just allow the feeling to be there, and then become conscious of what limiting belief it is, and then, introducing the what if, and what if I was smart, and what is it that I am passionate about? What is it that I do like thinking about or I have knowledge about? After you do all of that, it's then that you can introduce a new mantra or affirmation that is more aligned with the truth. Or rather, that it is then paired and entangled with that knowing or a memory of your truth, that you are smart, that you are knowledgeable, that you do have enough or are enough. It's then that you are rewiring a new belief. It's then that you are redirecting your focus and your power and showing your subconscious that you are, in fact, what you once feared you're not. And it's after doing these simple exercises over and over again every time you're triggered. It's this way that then the affirmations won't be as hard to adopt or embody, right? You don't have to go so extreme, like I am extremely rich and wealthy, or I am a millionaire. You can just simply say, I am abundant. Because abundance comes in all sorts of forms, all sorts of ways. And if you use that affirmation, I am abundant, then that way, that affirmation won't be as hard to adopt. Your subconscious will be more inclined or more likely to accept that new belief system, that new affirmation. And again, when you use simple affirmations paired in with this technique and in this way, you will then only strengthen and really magnify your power. And it's then that you can use the affirmations in the correct way to affirm something that we already believe and already know about ourselves. Okay, so the second thing that I wanted to address was about spiritual bypassing. Because believe it or not, affirmations are used all the time in spiritual bypassing. So now, spiritual bypassing is when we hide behind spiritual practices or spirituality in general as a way to avoid doing the real work. Basically, anything that you're doing that prevents you or stops you from acknowledging the truth of what you're feeling, thinking, believing, or saying is spiritual bypassing. So if you're using positive affirmations as a way to override or avoid feeling certain feelings or emotions or truths about you, or truths about your deep limiting beliefs or fears, then they will not work. They will do diddly squat and can in fact hinder your manifestations from coming in, because as you guys know by now, what we avoid looking at, what we avoid acknowledging, or what we avoid feeling, or what we suppress, that only gains more power when we do this. So again, you need to have the courage to own your truth. Be honest with yourself and admit or own up to if you're doing this. You need to be honest and answer honestly if you're using affirmations to avoid or not feel negative emotions or lower vibrational emotions, or if you're using them to avoid acknowledging your fears or limiting beliefs. It's like, oh, I feel triggered. This person's been awful to me and I don't feel good about myself. I don't like feeling this way. Oh, I'm so down on myself. I'm just going to tell myself that I'm beautiful and abundant and everything is fine and well in my world. And I'm going to repeat that over and over and over again. Nope. That's spiritual bypassing. That is you trying to avoid feeling the bad feelings. That's you trying to avoid acknowledging the limiting belief and fear that's been triggered. And you're trying to override it right away and fix it right away with positive thoughts and feelings. Because if you're doing that, you're not accepting yourself as you are. You're rejecting aspects of yourself. You're rejecting and not accepting, or you're avoiding negative feelings. You're avoiding feeling these negative emotions. You're not acknowledging how you feel. You're rejecting aspects of yourself. And doing this is not embodying unconditional love. Doing this is not of source consciousness. Therefore, it's finite. So these actions will not sustain your reality. They won't work. And spiritual growth and conscious evolution, leveled up manifestations won't come in if you constantly do this. Or the manifestations that come in won't last. They won't sustain. You instead will constantly be tested. You'll be tested and given many opportunities to eventually look at the limiting beliefs and fears, to actually feel the lower vibrational emotions and negative emotions that you've been avoiding. Things will keep manifesting that will prompt you to look at and own what you've been spiritually bypassing, what you've not been owning. So you may as well become aware of if you're doing it now, because you'll only continue to be tested in it in the future. So I really hope that today's episode clarified the energies behind using affirmation for you guys. And again, there is nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with using affirmations. You just need to become conscious of how you're using them, why you're using them, and to not rely solely on them to change your reality or try to control or force manifestations or to force feeling something different. Now, next week, I'm actually going to create an affirmation exercise or meditation for you guys. And this meditation is very powerful. And it will help you to level up your being and knowing, as it's going to be a great tool to use over and over again for when and if you feel more triggered in the future by circumstances. And that will actually help to assist you in shifting your underlying or your baseline energetic frequencies. It won't just be a tool to help you to override things. It'll help you to shift those outdated and old limiting beliefs and fears. And then it will help you to redirect your focus. And of course, don't forget to share this episode with anyone that you feel called to share with at this time. This information that I shared is so important. It took me years to figure all of this stuff out on my own, through my own experiences and my own understandings of conscious evolution. And I want to save you guys the time and the effort. So please feel free to share this information with anyone that you feel called to share with. And don't forget, you can sign up to my weekly newsletter on my website. The link is in the show notes. And you can also follow me on my Instagram at @myEverydayAlchemy. I hope you all have an awesome week, everyone. Bye. Well, that's it for today, guys. And if you like today's episode, please like and follow us on our socials. Share this podcast with friends, and why not leave this podcast a review? Oh, and hang out next for a minute if you want some high vibe laughs. Why do mindful meditators love birthdays? They love all the presents.